What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the BlockHash podcast. Today, I have another exciting guest on the show, GC, founder of Euclid Protocol, a decentralized, unified, cross-chain liquidity infrastructure. We're going to talk a lot about liquidity today and what they're doing with Euclid. GC, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
All is good. All is good. Thank you for having me.
Likewise, pleasure to have you on. To kick things off, I'm sure people would love to know a bit more about yourself and what your journey has been like in the Web3 space and some of those instances and what also kind of led up to Euclid.
Yeah. So personally, I've been like a developer all my life. I loved coding since the age of 16, and I've come into the space. I think around 5 years ago, 4.5, 5 years ago, and it just started by investing into meme coins, looking into Ethereum, smart contracts, everything like that, and then I want to learn more. Started doing hackathons with my friends, and then we got offered a part-time job, at a new startup, building smart contracts, and like the rest is history. 4.5 years worked with different, protocols in the space, DeFi, um, NFTs, whatever you want, like all types of protocols. And then I started my own dev shop like 2 years ago, Athena, and we worked with different clients in the space, layer ones, protocols, building solutions for them. And then we decided we wanted to do our own thing, build something we were passionate about, which is liquidity. So I've been talking about the issue of fragmented liquidity and how bad it was going to be like a year ago, more than a year ago, and then we're seeing like actually the fragmentation issue get into play now with the modular thesis. And yeah, that's we decided to build it. We got a grant, raised funds for it, and now that's what we're doing.
Awesome. And just real quick, what is fragmented liquidity, if you could break it down?
Yeah, so fragmented liquidity is basically liquidity, first of all, is basically assets that exist on the blockchain which can be traded, right? So whether it is Bitcoin is liquidity, Ethereum is liquidity, any asset that you think of, like even stable coins, which exist on a blockchain are basically liquidity on a blockchain. Now, usually you had two, three blockchains. Back then you had Ethereum, you had two more, and that was it. But now you have over 1,000 blockchains, right? And whether it is an L2, whether it is an L1, sidechain, Cosmos chain, whatever, you have 1,000 chains, and these 1,000 chains to be able to get users, they need liquidity, they need these assets that exist to be able to get users to use their applications, trade on their platforms, all of that. So they need this liquidity. So but liquidity is limited, right? Like we have grown in liquidity that exists on chain, but it's still limited. And now it's all divided into all these networks that exist, over 1,000 networks, and they're fighting for the same liquidity. And when you have this liquidity divided, that's what we call fragmented liquidity, because it exists, it's fragmented across all these 1,000 networks instead of unified or existing on only one, two, three networks.
Okay, gotcha. And then what is the core mission for Euclid? What are you guys aiming to do in regards to cross-chain liquidity and infrastructure?
Yeah, so the goal of Euclid basically is to unify this fragmented liquidity to create a layer like an abstract layer which allows applications on any chain to tap into liquidity that exists anywhere. Right? So right now you have fragmented liquidity. We want to get back to when it was liquidity on one chain, even if it still exists on all these chains. So it's treated as if it's on one chain. So we're building this infrastructure, and we're working with partners and applications to integrate this infra to be able to tap into liquidity that exists on other chains, which means they can get users from other chains easily without the need to bridge assets, because we believe bridging is basically the worst part of the blockchain. It's the most exploitable, $5 billion in the past 4 years. It's very slow, it's very expensive, and it's also a centralized solution. So it's like completely opposite of what we believe in decentralization. So Euclid is basically a new solution that aims to tackle this fragmented liquidity by creating a layer which allows to unify it, even if virtually, to allow anybody to tap into it.
Okay, and what does some of that infrastructure look like that allows for that unification?
So basically, the infrastructure is twofold. There is the smart contract layer, which is basically just deploying smart contracts on all these networks, and there's the messaging layer, which allows these contracts to communicate with each other pretty easily, right? So think of Swift, Swift for banks, that allows all these banks, all these fragmented banks across the world to communicate with each other. It's the same thing, but Swift for smart contracts, basically.
Do you think that the fragmentation of liquidity today is hindering growth across Web3? Like, do you think that's a main component, main issue, and part of why you guys want to solve it at such an expedient rate?
Yeah, I believe it's the biggest issue actually, because every year you have $1 billion in incentives being paid from layer twos, layer ones, new layer twos coming up for people to come and put liquidity on their network, right? $1 billion every year. If you take these $1 billion and just put them on, developing products, developing new infra, developing marketing, whatever you want, the space will have been 10 years where 10 years in the future. So it's very expensive to get liquidity for layers, and this is the biggest hindrance. Also for users, it sucks having to move to all these chains to be able to do anything now, right? When you had DeFi summer back then, it was all about, like, in 2021, it was all about being able to trade across and do everything in one place. Now you need 5 wallets, 10 gas tokens, 20 applications to use to be able to just do what you could have done 2 years in one place. So it's a bad user experience, and it's also very bad for layers, very costly for layers and applications. And we're trying to solve this.
Okay. And then for developers, is the integration process pretty simple and streamlined as well?
Yeah, it's like very very simple for like the new developers, and also already existing applications that are already launched, which want to expand the liquidity exposure. It's basically you can integrate like either through smart contracts or through API, and that's it. It takes like if for a basic application it takes like 5 minutes to do. For more complex application it takes a few days, but nothing too complex out of this world.
And last time we talked, the testnet was mentioned. Is that something that's still upcoming, or did you guys launch it already?
Yeah, so testnet actually is live on 20 networks. We'll be live on 50 in a few weeks. We're still wrapping up testing and everything, but we'll be live on 50 across EVM, Cosmos, and Solana in a few weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then testnet is mostly right now infrastructure. We're just releasing our private beta to like 20,000 users, which have already registered. But most of our testnet, as I said, is infrastructure. We're working with our partners and applications to start integrating it on testnet, testing it out before we prepare for our mainnet launch.
Okay. And then general developers will be able to start using it in the next couple of weeks or so, like you mentioned, right?
Yeah, they can already start. We already had a hackathon with over 50 submissions, 50 project submissions, people using Euclid for different use cases. So you can already start, but it will be more streamlined and easier to do in a few weeks. Yes.
Okay. And then are you guys working on any particular use cases? I was going through the website and I saw that you guys had a swap that was coming as well. So I wasn't sure if maybe that was a important use case you guys were working on.
Yeah. So basically, we have our own interface. So it's a DEX interface, which acts like an aggregator somehow, just to show it's all built using our infra. So it just shows our infrastructure, how it works, how fast and smooth it is, things like that, right? So it's it's one interface, but this is not our main focus. Our main focus is basically integrations, with all these applications and platforms that need unified liquidity.
Awesome. And then what have you guys been up to this fall? I saw that you attended Cosmoverse recently too. How'd that go?
Yeah, pretty good. So we did some demos for some of our partners and some of our friends in Cosmoverse. We've been also in Singapore in Token, also in Bangkok for DEF CON, and we have some team members right now in India Blockchain Week. So yeah, we're just sharing the world. Like I'm pretty, like honestly, I'm pretty passionate about unified liquidity, and our team is, and we're just sharing, like spreading the world.
That's awesome. How do you go about demoing some of that stuff? I assume that's around fragmented liquidity too, right?
Yeah, so demos is basically the interface. We just show them the interface, how you're able to swap from one asset on one chain to another without having to bridge in like 3 to 5 seconds. It's a very simple demo where it's going to be live for people to see in like 1.5 week anyways. But yeah, that's mostly it.
Awesome. Any key takeaways from some of those events on fragmented liquidity in the industry? Any insights, thought processes, ideas that maybe have cropped up?
Yeah. Actually, when we started, fragmented liquidity was not that big of an issue, right? But now we have, like, I'm every conference you go to, you're hearing more and more people talking about it, talking about solving fragmented. They may call it something else, but it's the same concept, which is fragmented liquidity. You've seen Uniswap, because now we've seen Uniswap become its own layer two, and now all these big applications are going to become their own layer two, which means even more and more fragmentation from Ethereum, which means they're going to be there's going to be even a bigger issue in fragmented liquidity, and they're already trying to solve it. Like there's some solutions like Intense, Uniswap X has been like released. There's some solutions trying to solve it. So it's nice to see that people are finally like getting aware of how big of an issue fragmented liquidity is for user experience.
Awesome. And then do you guys have any existing partnerships or anyone you're building out use cases with that you think are pretty cool that maybe you could highlight as an example, or is it still a bit early?
Yeah, no, we actually have a very like few interesting partners we're already working with, but I cannot share details as of now. It's still private, but like on Twitter, if you follow us, you'll be able to see like when announcement is ready, we'll share it there basically.
Okay, cool. And then going into 2025, do you guys have anything exciting on your guys' roadmap that you can share with users and developers? Anything you guys will be introducing to Euclid or even other events you might be attending?
So Q1 2025, I would say just prepare for mainnet. Like Q1 2025 is mainnet. We'll launch. We already have like partners we're launching with already using Euclid. Our interface will be live to use. Um, there's a couple of surprises we're launching with. We can't say again. I can't say exactly now what we're doing, but there's a few different features we don't talk about that will be also announced during that time. So Q1 is a very exciting time for Euclid, I would say.
Awesome. And then where can people go to learn a bit more? If you're a developer, you want to build on Euclid, you want to jump into the testnet, where's a good place to start?
So our documentation is a very good place to start. Like you can go to our website, euclidprotocol.io, and our documentation is just docs.euclidprotocol.io. There you can find all our APIs, smart contracts, also guides on how to integrate, how to do a swap, how to get the best route for your asset, whatever. It's all there. You can also contact us if you have any more questions or want to do integrations. We're happy to help, of course.
Okay. And then social media, do you guys also have communities, Telegram, Discord, any place where anyone's hanging out?
Yeah, we have X and Telegram. We're mostly active on Telegram, so at Euclid Protocol, and X is also Euclid Protocol. And from X, you can get all our socials, so even from our website.
GC, appreciate the time. This has been great. Fragmented liquidity, big issue out there. Great that you guys are working on it. I learned a lot about it today too in this episode. So thanks for elaborating on its importance and the work you guys are doing. Excited about Euclid, and keep me up to date. And maybe when mainnet comes out, we can do a part 2 as well.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for today.